Good morning, guys. It's Drew here. Quick video blog. I want to talk briefly about Fidel Castro and Cuba and pretty much the right way to look at this. Because I had a debate on one of my social media pages about this, and I had mentioned that, Cubans live like slaves. And somebody took offense to that, and he proceeded to tell me that, there are places in America that are worse than places in Cuba. And, I obviously disagreed. But anyway, let's get into it. Pretty much, this is how I see Cuba, okay? All right. Cuba is one of those places where, you have a dictator that makes all the money, keeps all the resources, and uses the government and government force to dish out the resources. Now, the GDP per capita, that means prosperity per citizen in Cuba on average is about 6,000. The GDP per capita, and that's $6,000 a year that a Cuban citizen can expect to earn or whatever, or have, or between resources and everything. The GDP per capita in America is on average 53,000. Now, some people will look at this and they'll say, well, I don't earn that. I don't have that many resources. But what's happening is that the wealthy people in America bring the average up. So it's like this though. But on average, the lowest incoming earning people in the U.S., they receive free services. They receive free things, and the people who do work receive at least almost triple that 6,000 GDP per capita that you see in Cuba. Okay, maybe I'm not using these terms perfectly, but my point is that in America, even the worst towns have it better than in Cuba. I'm not saying that the worst towns in America have it better than the best towns, because obviously the best places in Cuba are held by Fidel Castro and he, or Raul Castro, his brother now, and they're multimillionaires, possibly even billionaires, because they hog all the resources there. So I'm not saying that, but I am saying that Cuba and places like Cuba are not exactly the socialist leftist paradises that liberals make it out to be. And to make matters more ironic and more hilarious, you can't honestly expect people to take your criticisms about Donald Trump and your fears about Donald Trump seriously if you're going to go out there and you're going to praise Fidel Castro and his quote-unquote legacy. Fidel Castro is like the hipster liberal icon, along with Che Guevara. Hipster liberals love these guys because they stand against capitalism, but these hipster liberals that have the luxury to pontificate about Castro and about Che Guevara and all these other socialist, revolutionary, murderous icons, the only reason that liberals have the luxury to do that is because they live in America. They could never live in Cuba. They can never live in Cuba and talk about how great it is in America. You know why? Because their internet is censored. Their internet is censored. All their activity is monitored. They can't even revolt against their government in speech. What kind? What? It's just, I don't even know where to go with this. But it's like this. First of all, they don't make a lot of money and they don't have a lot of resources. Then they don't even have freedom of speech. They don't even have freedom of speech. They don't even have the freedom to do the things that they want. The government is always watching them. What value is money there to begin with if you can't even use it? And then the guy was telling me, okay, well, Cubans have free healthcare and free education, but they're still slaves. They're still slaves. It's like saying slaves on the plantation get free food. People in jail get free food and get free medical care. It's still jail. You know what I mean? Just like Cuba is still an oppressive place. It doesn't matter if they get free healthcare and free education. You know what? Liberals always act like free healthcare and free education is the highest virtue of any society. No, it's not. After you get free healthcare, after you get your free education, then what? Then what? The highest virtue of any society is that citizens have the ability to become what their hopes and dreams are. This is, self-actualization. But people who don't have their personal security needs met, such as healthcare and food, or healthcare and education, or whatever, they always think in terms of security. They don't don't get to the point where they get to think in terms of self-actualization, because they never, I guess maybe they feel that they didn't get the healthcare that they wanted, they didn't get the food that they wanted, they didn't get the life that they wanted because they didn't get the education they wanted. So they're always thinking in terms of security, and it's funny because at the end of the day, we always subjectively look at the world through our own experiences. And we know that in the United States, we have it good because we experience freedom here. We know that we have it good because we experience freedom. We know that we can expand our set of choices through earning more income. We know that we can go into the job market and look for more income, and we know that we can apply that income to do what we will with it. We know that if we criticize our government, we're not going to be shot the next day. The quality of life in America is so different from the quality of life in Cuba. And I feel like these liberals and these college students, they're so miserable that they always think that the grass is greener on the other side. They're so miserable because they're so entitled. And it's like, if you feel entitled to things, that is the cause of your misery. The cause of your misery is that you feel entitled to things. You think you are owed something. I could understand if you work tireless hours and you don't get paid enough. Or I can understand if you put in the work for things and you just don't get them. That can be frustrating, and I totally get that, and I've been there before personally. But it's this idea that you are entitled to things that you have not earned that causes misery. I really believe it does, because it just sets the expectation and the bar too high for other people. You expect other people to provide things that you are not willing to earn yourself. How are you possibly going to be happy like that? There's just no way. So, like I'm saying, I think that liberals in general and the philosophy that they preach sets them up for emotional depression. It sets them up for emotional damage because they see the glass always half empty, because they always think that they're entitled to something or somebody owes them something. So anyway, Fidel Castro was a murderous, brutal dictator. He restricted the potential of his citizens, and it's sad to see, liberals celebrating the man as if he had a great legacy. Like, I wouldn't want to live under a guy like that. I'd probably kill myself, or if not, go to war with the government. But I could never live like a slave. Like, that's terrible. And people think that Fidel Castro is such a good guy because he's in a couple of pictures shaking hands with Africans, or shaking hands with black people. Like I just don't get it. The thing about the black community in America is like, they're so quick to jump on any bandwagon that seems to support them, and it's just like so ridiculous. And maybe I'm excluded from that because I'm a Nigerian or whatever, but it's like they're desperately looking for something that they can identify with or something. But anyway, Fidel Castro was a brutal dictator. Cuba is not better than America. It's not better than any first world country, for that matter. And if these liberals and college students really think that Cuba is a paradise, then why aren't they chomping at the bit to go live there? Why do they wake up in their American hell every morning then? Why don't they just save up all the money that they have? Don't even pay for college. Just go right to Cuba. You know what I mean? So they won't do that because they know that the argument that they're making is just bullshit. They're just making the argument for the sake of making the argument. So anyway, that's all I got to say. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace.